Are you going to be making a move to Niceville, Florida? You might be asking yourself, what areas of the city are best for me? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss the 5 main areas, plus a little bonus one, here in Niceville, Florida. Stay tuned. What is going on? This is Andrew Iremonger with, you guessed it, the Emerald Group here in Niceville, Florida. Listen, if you're wanting to know everything there is to know about Niceville and many of the surrounding areas, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you tap that little bell so that you'll be notified every time we do a new video. Listen, we get calls, texts, and emails all the time of people wanting to move to Niceville, Florida and the surrounding areas. If that sounds like you, feel free to go ahead and give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, send a carrier pigeon, however you want to get a hold of us, and we've got your back when it comes to moving here to the Emerald Coast. So this week we decided to do the 5 main sub areas here in Niceville, Florida. But stick around, we've got a secret little 6th edition. It's not quite an area yet, but it will be pretty soon. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you stick around till the end. First and foremost, why do most people move to Niceville, Florida? Well, I know a big chunk of them are going to be coming from the different bases all around, whether it's Eglin, Hurlburt, Duke Field, 7th Special Forces. We've got a lot of them. So it might be active duty members coming in that got orders. It could be retired folks looking to live the Florida lifestyle, or contractors working at one of the bases or supporting one of them. Now, that's not everybody that moves down here, but that is a pretty good chunk of it. Now let's take a look at a few things that some of the bigger websites like niche.com says about Niceville, Florida, and why it's such a nice place to live. That'll be the only time I do that. I'll skip that the rest of the video, don't worry. Now check out these gradings here. An A in public schools, it's probably the biggest reason why most of our past clients say that they ended up choosing Niceville over some of our other cities. Niche.com also says it's great for families, low on crime, and has great diversity. Those are all great bonuses. Now, I thought this was more interesting than anything, but check out these rankings. Niceville was ranked 65 out of 1,132 for best place to buy a home in Florida. So keep this in mind in case you're going to buy down here. It ranked 69 out of 652 for best public schools in Florida. And lastly, it ranked 89 out of 1,136 for best place to raise a family in Florida. Now, none of these are number 1 rankings, but they're all still pretty strong. Now, just staring at my beautiful face and talking about why people love to move to Niceville, Florida isn't really going to help you, right? So let's go ahead and pull up a map. And let's go over the areas that we're going to be discussing today. So starting off on the west side of Niceville is Valparaiso. Now, Valparaiso is technically its own city, but it's not quite big enough to warrant its own video. So we decided we're just going to mix it in right here with Niceville. Next, we have Niceville North, followed by Niceville proper. Next up, we have Rocky Bayou, and a little bit further southeast of that, we'll have Blue Water Bay. Both Rocky Bayou and Blue Water Bay are very popular choices for people to move to. Our bonus area today is technically in Rocky Bayou. It's an up-and-coming neighborhood called Deer Moss Creek. You're really going to want to stick around for it. It's one of my favorite neighborhoods in all of the Emerald Coast, and by the time it's done, it's going to be pretty awesome, and it's going to warrant its own area of the city. All right, let's start with Valparaiso, which is just west of Niceville. Now, Valparaiso, or as we like to call it, Valp here locally, boasts one really big advantage, and that's that the entire city actually runs right into Eglin Air Force Base on the east side. If you're working at Eglin, it's a nice little drive right in. Now, as far as home prices here in Valp, looking at past solds for the past year, they've ranged anywhere from $100,000 all the way up to the high 700s. But don't let that scare you. Most of the home prices were around $250,000 to $300,000. Now let's talk about location. As I mentioned before, if you're working on Eglin, it's a very short 4-minute commute, which is pretty good. And for those of you maybe working or commuting to Hurlburt Field, that's going to be about an 18-minute drive. And for grocery shopping, you're looking at about 11 minutes to either Publix or Walmart, which are pretty close together. Now, if you're wanting to go spend the day in Destin or go shopping or any of that good stuff, it's going to take you about 37 minutes. Now, you've got a choice here in Valp. It's going to be about the same to go either the Toll Bridge Road or go around Fort Walton, so you can save the couple of bucks there on the bridge. And when you're commuting out or maybe family is coming in, the Destin Fort Walton Airport is only about 7 minutes away. Now let's look into the north side of Niceville. This is where the Eglin Golf Course is, beautiful course, and also Northwest Florida State College. Now when it comes to home prices here in North Niceville, we've had condos sell in the last year as low as about $100,000 and homes sell all the way up into about the mid 500s, with the bulk of them landing again in the kind of $250,000 to $300,000 range. Now, when it comes to location, we've got about a 9-minute drive to the east gate of Eglin Air Force Base and approximately a 21-minute drive if you're heading to the east gate of Hurlburt Field. You've got roughly a 7-minute, give or take, drive to Publix and Walmart, and about a 32 to 34-minute drive to Destin, again, depending on which side you take, either the toll side or the Fort Walton Beach side. You want to save yourself a couple of bucks, as I've mentioned before, make sure you go on the west side. And when it comes to getting to and from the airport, that's only going to be about 11 minutes away. Now, when it comes to Niceville proper, as I'm calling it, this is where a huge chunk of homes have sold. In fact, in the past year, we've had about 230 homes sold in this little tiny area alone. But surprisingly enough, it's not the area in Niceville that sells the most, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. Now, when it comes to home prices in Niceville proper, they range anywhere from about $100,000 to about $1.9 million. But the bulk of the homes land in the $260,000 to $310,000 range, give or take. Now, when it comes to location, just rewind a couple of minutes if you really want it. They're not going to be that much different than Niceville North because these areas are literally right on top of each other. So, in the interest of saving time, we're going to go ahead and skip that for this area. Now let's get into Blue Water Bay. This is probably the area we get asked hands down the most questions about and where most of our past clients actually end up, which it kind of makes sense because this is the area where the most homes sell. In the last year alone, 340 plus homes have sold. Blue Water Bay boasts a lot of things, and just to name a few of them, they've got their own golf courses, their own marina, they even have their own resort. Now, when it comes to property prices out here in Blue Water Bay, in the last year, we've had everything from condos selling in the low 100s all the way up to single-family homes selling just north of $1 million. With its great location, amenities, and just overall feel of the neighborhood, it doesn't surprise me that this is the most commonly asked about neighborhood. Speaking of its great location, let's talk about some of the key points. You've got Eglin Air Force Base is going to be a short 16-minute drive to the east gate. And you've got approximately 28 minutes to get to Hurlburt Field in case you're going to that airbase. Depending on where you're at in Blue Water Bay, it's going to be about a 7 or 8 minute drive to your grocery stores, Walmart, and Publix nearby. And for those of you that can't stay away from Destin, Destin's going to be about 23 minutes away. Now, that's going to be on the toll bridge, so make sure that you get that Sun Pass so that you save yourself a little bit of money. And as far as the airport's going to be about 18 minutes away from you. So that makes Blue Water Bay kind of an ideal spot. Nothing is too far, nothing is right next door either though. So you kind of get a healthy mix of a little bit of everything. Just north of Blue Water Bay is one of my personal favorites, Rocky Bayou. Now, it's my personal favorite because of the bonus we'll talk about here in a second, but let's talk about just Rocky Bayou as a whole. Rocky Bayou has its own things that it's really proud of. So it's got its own country club, it's got, great walkability, it's got lots of stuff nearby. One of the coolest things is it has its own state park right there in Rocky Bayou. Now, Rocky Bayou's home prices are a little bit north of what we've been talking about before, with homes starting in the 300s and going all the way up to about $1.9 million. The bulk of the homes land somewhere between the $400,000 and $600,000 range. Now, as I mentioned before, the location's not going to be that much different than Blue Water Bay, maybe a minute or two off. So if you're curious on where everything is there, it's about the same. So go ahead and rewind about a minute or so and you'll see all of that. All right, now we're going to get into our bonus area. That's weird. Our bonus area is Deer Moss Creek. It's one of my favorite little neighborhoods, and although it's not big enough to currently warrant its own area, it is up and coming and it will eventually be big enough to warrant that, so I wanted to make sure that I put it in this video. They are currently in phase 1 out of 3 different phases of building this neighborhood. What is phase 1? Well, phase 1 includes 98 single-family lots. So it's only going to be single-family homes in this stage of development. And the lots range from 0.11 acre to 0.38 acres. So if you're looking for that huge, extravagant house on a piece of land, you're not going to find it, at least in phase 1. Some of the other things phase 1 has is a running trail that goes along the creek, and they also have bike trails on the main road. In this current stage, there are only 12 approved builders right now, and they're all under fairly strict guidelines on how they're going to build. So things like not having 2 blue houses right next to each other, or the style of the home and things like that. So they're a little bit limited there, but it makes for a great feel for the entire neighborhood that everything kind of looks the same and it gives that nice suburbia feel. Now, phases 2 and 3 all include things like pools, community centers, rec centers, shopping, a whole bunch of other stuff. It's going to be a huge community once it's all said and done. And if you just can't wait for another video, I'll eventually do a standalone video just for this neighborhood because it's going to be that big. If you can't wait for it, just comment down below, show me more about Deer Moss Creek, and I'll throw it higher on my list. Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's video about Niceville, Florida. I hope it was helpful. And as I said before, if you're thinking about moving to Niceville, Florida, or any of the surrounding areas, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, however you want to get a hold of us. We've got your back when it comes to moving here to Niceville, Florida. So if you made it this far, I'd love for you to smash that like button. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week with another video. Doopy, 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 doopy. All right. Geez.